Yeah, Weege Show coming your way. Post-race wrap-up of Anaheim 2, brought to you, of course, by Racetech and their Gold Valves. Suspension will be Plusher, better bottoming resistance, more traction, and made and engineered in the USA. Go to racetech.com. In a moment, we'll be sending it out to Kellen Brauer for a recap. He has just completed the post-race media scrum with the non-podium finishers. But I was able to participate in the Zoom press conference, so I'll give you the scoop of the riders on the podium. And we do need 2 reporters for this show because there was so much action. So much action. What a great night for Monster Energy Supercross. You had the awesome Triple Crown format. We don't need it more than 3 times a year, but when we do get it, it's often very good. And tonight it was great. We had lots of action. We had Phil Nicoletti leading a race with experimental race leader lights on his bike and then seeing them get turned off. We had Jet Lawrence having his problems and his win streak is over. And then in the 450 class, well, everything changed. It was already, and I'm guilty of this, starting to shape up as a Eli Tomac versus Cooper Webb season. Eli had been so good at the first 2 rounds. He crashed and won Anaheim 1. He blew everybody away at round 2 at San Diego. And Cooper Webb was the second best rider at both those races. But how about this? Neither Tomac nor Webb on the podium here at Anaheim 2. And in all the chaos and all the drama, and there was plenty of it, it wasn't just chaos and drama that knocked him off the podium. Ken Roxzen, Jason Anderson, and Chase Sexton were just way better at this race than they were at the first 2. And those are the 5 guys, right, that you would want to or expect to see contend for it. So you don't want Tomac and Webb to start making this procedural or easy to predict as the season goes along. And the biggest shout goes to Sexton, who led Anaheim 1 and got caught and passed by Tomac, who had crashed. Had a bad night at San Diego. He said for some reason that track felt like a fair race to him, but he loved this track and he was fully focused on getting points back on Tomac early. Here he is in the press conference.
I would say my start to the season was very mediocre. The first race I came out swinging, but lost a lot of time towards the end of the race. And then last weekend was not fun going to the LCQ. So I just told myself, you can't let Eli get a race lead on you early in the series because he doesn't make mistakes a lot. So I really put a lot of, effort and focus on tonight, and it worked out. I felt awesome in practice all day. Was really riding good, and this track being a little bit more technical and had a little bit of both. It was slow but also fast in some areas. I think helps me a lot.
So that's Sexton. That's all you want to hear from someone like Sexton. He's going to get it back. And he did it under pressure. The way the points lined up with everyone having good and bad races, it was winner take all. Tomac, Roxzen, Anderson, and Sexton all could have won this one, depending on who won the final crown of the Triple Crown race. And Sexton turned a so-so gate pick into a really good start, and then he battled his way past Anderson, and that is no joke. In Supercross, do we know? Is Sexton faster than Anderson? Is Anderson faster than Sexton? Sexton beating Anderson straight up like that, that's still a pretty big feather in the cap in Supercross. Remember, he'd only won 1 Supercross main event in his career, so this is really big for Sexton to get back in it, and somehow he's only 4 points down on Tomac, even though he wasn't happy with his performance in the first 2 races. And now we have to talk about Eli. I believe this Eli Webb thing, there's something to it. Eli had rolled up on Webb in the 3rd race and was trying to get around him and getting pretty desperate. And he ended up making a very uncharacteristic for Eli Tomac mistake. And it was scary. He lucked out. He landed on a tough block. Bad luck. But then his body vaulted onto another tough block. Good luck. Very rarely do you see Eli Tomac in dangerous situations where he is flipping head over heels. That could have been a disaster. Did look like he grazed the side of his helmet while he was flipping. He was able to salvage 13th, got up in 14th. He made 1 pass on Freddie Noren. We do not see unforced errors from Eli Tomac much. As I've said a million times, when he has bad races, he just tightens up and he gets 6th or 7th. But yard cell crashes, we haven't seen one of those in a long time. If you're referencing the 2015 Colorado crash, I will reference the fact that that was 8 years ago. So this was a big change, a big change in the series. Shot in the arm of adrenaline for Anderson, Roxzen, and Sexton. How about Ken Roxzen? Finally looking like a guy who's racing now and not testing, and he's very proud of himself. Here's something to think about with Roxzen. We put so much focus and effort on the fact that he had switched to Suzuki this year with Progressive and X-Star. We had forgotten that the normal story with Roxzen is his health. And look, guess what? As luck would have it, he might finally have his health issues under control. So forget the motorcycle. Ken feels strong. And when you saw him battle so hard with Tomac in the second race tonight and come from behind in the third race to salvage that podium, yeah, you could tell the health is pretty good.
With all the off-season races that I've done, I just didn't really see the need for anybody telling me what to do, because I was flying to Australia and California and England. And I mean, it's hard to follow a program from somebody that's not with me, you know. And it started with that, and I enjoyed that. And as well, I've just, like I said, my health has been a lot better. So I just feel like I've been absorbing everything, and I was able to work out a bit harder, and just had a good, some hard days and some lighter days. And I just feel like I started to get a really good system. And I think mainly with myself feeling better and absorbing it, that I just feel fitter and stronger, and I'm not getting so tired throughout the weeks.
And then finally, Jason Anderson was third, and his main point was he was in podium position potentially at the first two races and threw it away. He wanted to be aggressive and go for the win, but at the same time he felt, let's just take a podium tonight. So that's what he did. Okay, so that's our top three in the 450 class. We had a Supercross Futures race, or I think everyone wanted to dub it the race that Hayden Deegan was in, but Deegan just didn't have it. He wasn't the fastest guy in qualifying in any of the sessions today on Saturday, and then he crashed while trying to come through after a so-so start in the main. Daxton Bennick looked so good. He was really the only one of the Supercross Futures amateurs that did not look like it was his first shot in a Supercross race, even though it was. He looked very relaxed, didn't make huge mistakes at all, and a great job. Now, Daxton was right there with Deegan. I mean, they were 1A, 1B back in their mini-cycle days, and then for a long while, Daxton started to tail off. His results weren't quite as good as they used to be, while Deegan really ramped it up. This is a nice sign if you're a Daxton Bennick fan, because he not only won this, he looked really good doing it. So congrats to Bennick, who's now a part of that same Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team that Deegan and seemingly every other good rider is, including Levi Kitchen, who has finally won a race. Now, I really shouldn't say finally, because this is like the 6th Supercross for Levi, but the other ones have not been good at all. Like, we just needed him to show signs of something, even just a podium. The fact that he turned it all the way around and won, even surprised himself.
To be honest, after the first main, it was a little disheartening seeing, like, you know, I mean, Jet pretty much blew my doors off, and then Pierce, same thing. So it was definitely tough for me, but I'm just not used to that intensity. When the track's smooth like that, man, those guys, they're going really fast. And so after that one, it was kind of a weird feeling. And then to get second in the second one, I was just lucky to be alive. I don't know if they got it, but I framed the Supercross triple and both my hands came off. And then regrouped, ended up second, and then into the last one, Swanee was kind of telling us before it, you know, like what I need to get and stuff. And I'm proud of myself for not really letting it get to me. All I knew was I just needed to nail the start, and I did. And then kind of just cruised behind Jet, and yeah, it was good.
And then he found himself in position for the overall going into the third race. Why? Because it was a complete disaster of inconsistency for everyone else in the 250 class, starting with Jet Lawrence, who crashed in the Dragons back in the first race. Said someone decided to make a 90-degree corner on a straightaway in the second race, and he had, well, let's just hear him explain it.
And it was okay. And then I followed Styles around that right hand at the very end of that first long rhythm, and came out, and he got out okay. And then I was following him, and then someone decided still to make it a 90-degree and going straight. So I got messed up, and I ended up getting a fork leg to the sphincter. So that wasn't nice. And then from there it was just kind of making, we tried to get him back to up with the pack, and I had to roll the double before the finish line twice. The two guys went down right in front of me. So we were like, yeah, okay, this is where we're at right now. So we were at an all-time low there.
Yeah, and then he finally got a good start, came back in the third. The Triple Crowns, they have been an Achilles heel for Jet Lawrence. And RJ Hampshire was looking so good this year, so consistent and smooth. And then he wins the first race, and then RJ goes RJ, just yard sale, bike parts falling all over the place. Really tough break for him. He had looked so improved on the consistency front these first two rounds and in the first race tonight. Tough break for RJ. Enzo Lopes, kind of the bottom fell out after he had two great races. I think a lot of people expected him to maybe battle for the podium in the Triple Crown, but he had some crashes, didn't have it go so well. And Cameron McAdoo had a huge crash in practice, but he did what he had to do. He raced. He scored some points. Could have very easily been done. And credit also to Styles Robertson for winning race 2, which we like to say our bad news Phil Nicoletti character out there is always black cloud, and there's no silver linings for Phil. He had the luckiest situation ever where he led early in the second race and then like 7 dudes fell. And he almost held on to win it. That would have been spectacular if Phil got it, but credit to Robertson for getting it done there in the end. It was nice to see Phil lead some laps. With this new thing that Feld was experimenting with, what if we put lights on the triple clamps of these bikes and we lit up the race leader, and they picked Phil, they often use the Club MX team, to run the experiments. Maybe someday every bike will have this and whoever is in the lead will have the light on. They picked Phil to be the sample, and then lo and behold, Phil did his job by leading, and then when he got passed by Robertson, they turned the light off. So that's a little bit of old bad news, Phil, there. Turn the light off, he lost the lead. Those are the scoops I've got. Now we're going to send it out to Kellen Brauer in Anaheim and find out what the atmosphere was like in the building and what he learned off the podium. Kellen?
Yeah, Weege Show. We are back here at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, and the Triple Crown is done and dusted. Thank you, Weege, throwing it to me. I'm sure you covered some of the event's topics tonight already, but boy, oh boy, this was a wild one. It felt like every time I looked up from my computer in the press box tonight, something different was happening. Somebody was falling, somebody was getting past, something. And that is what these Triple Crowns provide. I mean, it is fireworks from beginning until the end. Quite literally fireworks at the beginning, because they have opening ceremonies every night. But I will say, walking around the pits afterwards, we did interview some guys. You can tell from the teams, the riders, really everybody, they're tired. Like, this is a long night of racing. This is a lot of work to go into, maintain the bikes. They roll 2 bikes down to the gate every time. And then the few riders that we did talk to, man, you could just tell it took it out of them. They're obviously racing at high intensity for longer, regardless of if you take heat races and LCQs and combine it all together. The intensity of it is just longer. It just is. And they have to adapt to that and change to that. And boy, we saw some crazy moments tonight. Probably the biggest talking point, of course, is Eli Tomac's wild ride in the third main event. He was finally doing that triple on to the next table type of thing that we only, I guess, really saw Kenny Roxzen try to do earlier in the day, and then Eli started just busting it out in the third main event. And he almost got it really bad at one point. Looked like he was going to maybe change up his mantra of how he was going to do it. Maybe he wasn't going to follow Cooper. Maybe he was going to change up his line. Well, he changed up his line, he slipped the rear tire, and he jumped off the track into the tough blocks and had a big one. We don't see many Eli Tomac big ones. It's kind of rare, really. It had become a thing where we just weren't seeing it hardly at all. And that one was a big one. He got pretty darn lucky to land on some tough blocks. You can already see behind me that the Yamaha guys are pretty much all shut down. Eli's long gone and everything like that. But yeah, that was a huge one. Cartwheeling through the air, the fans reacting to it was nuts, which, by the way, the fans tonight in Angel Stadium, you know, we on the West Coast, I guess, or you would say fortunate to have 2 Anaheims and a San Diego and all these races really close together. But, you know, we've had 3 races now that are within about a 60 to 70 mile proximity to each other, and they've all been sellouts. It was a wild, ruckus crowd tonight watching this race. They were super into it. It seemed like every pass, no matter where it was on the track, they were watching it and super attentive. So kudos to that. I mean, the atmosphere was incredible. But yeah, I mean, back to the racing action. You know, Tomac has the big one. We get Chase Sexton's first win of the year, his second win of his career. It seemed like it was building all day long. I mean, Chase in practice looked incredible. There was a point in time during practice where I watched an Eli Tomac hot lap, and it ended up being the fastest lap that he ran, which was a 59.1, and it was a great lap, like no question about it watching it. But Chase was a second and a half faster than that. And, you know, watching him do the things that he was doing on the track was really impressive. It's incredible to see these guys dissect a track, but Chase Sexton, it's like poetry in motion watching him do it. So that was really, really unique to see the ways that these guys figured out the track today. And then they had to race it, and they had to race it 3 times, and the intensity was high and the chaos ensued. I want to give, I guess, a shout out. Never really saw McAdoo after the race tonight at the PC rig. I saw Mitch Payton kind of hanging around, and McAdoo had a massive one in the whoops today, and somehow still walked out of this venue with a 6th overall on the night. I guess that's the saving grace of the Triple Crown, right? Is that you have the opportunity to salvage your night in a way. But we thought that the whole day was done. He crashed super hard in the first qualifying session, augured in. We believe it's some shoulder-related issue, and we didn't think he was coming back. He came out and rode the second qualifying session and was rolling around, didn't look comfortable, but decided he was going to give it a go anyway. And then as the night went on and perhaps the adrenaline picked up and you know, the pain maybe started to go away or whatever it was, he honestly got better throughout the night. And you know, now because of that sixth, you know, Jet still gets second on the night and obviously extends the championship lead away from RJ Hampshire, who is now long back after his crash in the second main and then just didn't seem to pick it up in the third main event. You know, Jet's got a big lead, but at least for McAdoo, he salvaged a freaking ton of points tonight that he could have lost if he didn't race, or if he went out there and couldn't ride to the potential that he eventually showed us. So big kudos to him, because he rode through a lot of pain. Gosh, there's just so many stories tonight. Kenny looking so much better on the Suzuki. You know, obviously Sexton's second win. Jason Anderson looking froggy as ever, but maybe finally putting all the pieces of the puzzle in some shape or form tonight to get back to his winning form. He wins the second race. Looked like he might be able to win a third, and it just didn't really materialize into that or work out quite that way. But still gets on the box. Dylan Ferrandis was getting better as every single race went on, and he was right up there at the front. We had Phil Nicoletti leading a race for quite a long time. We thought he might win that second race after all the chaos with Jet going down and Hampshire going down, and Volan was behind him and he went down. Pierce Brown and Cameron McAdoo went down behind him, and Phil had a huge lead at one point, but eventually it just you know, slowly faded back. Styles Robertson got him, and then Levi Kitchen wins his first ever 250 Supercross. I mean, these Triple Crowns, like I said, it just felt like the action continued and never really stopped all night long. Somehow we snuck a Supercross Futures race right into the middle of this thing. Daxton Bennett comes out as the winner of that. It seems like the Supercross Futures was a bit of a roller coaster to watch throughout the weekend. Friday practice, Hayden Deegan, fastest all day. Saturday, you know, starting off with free practice, everything was smooth as silk, and then Julian Bomer picks up the pace for qualifying. He goes fastest, qualifies P1, and then first lap of the Supercross Futures main event, Bomer cases the triple. We think he broke some spokes on his machine and pulled into the pit, so that was his night done. Then Deegan jumped off the track on the first lap, crashes on the third lap. Wild night. Yeah, the Rockstar Husky guys of Hawkins and Cochran battling up front, and then eventually Bennett caught up to both of them and passed both of them and won. Even that race was wild. Look at Darkside. He's trying to get in. He's different media now. You know, we're still covering the main topics here at Racer-X. But yeah, I mean, the Supercross Futures race, even that had action. You thought, oh, maybe we kind of know exactly what's going to happen in the Supercross Futures race, and pretty much exactly the opposite happened of what we thought. So, you know, we thought maybe Deegan would win this thing and we'd see him in Houston. Now he didn't win it. Is he going to be in Houston? You know, we'll have to see. None of the star guys are around anymore to really talk about it. Like I said, this place cleared out fast. Guys are tired. It was a long night of racing, but hey, catch the fever, man. These Triple Crowns, they provide the action, they provide the entertainment. The fans were super into it, and the fans, I would say, are also, they're pretty up to date on what was going on. At least the stadium leaderboard was updating at all times and telling the fans, you know, here's who's in what position, here's how many points they need to catch such and such, and so on and so forth. So you know, kudos to them to keeping up to date on that. And man, just a crazy night. I don't even know any good takeaways from this, because suddenly we have a 450 championship that's 4 points apart between the top three. You have a 250 championship that you could say is more blown wide open, but at least it's salvaged because of McAdoo. Just wild night of racing. And hey, that's what these Triple Crowns are here to provide, is the chaos and the lack of uniformity sometimes that Supercross can fall into with monotonous winners. And tonight we got 5 different winners or something like that. So crazy night, a lot of fun out here in Anaheim, and rolling it right into Houston next week. We're 3 rounds into this series and we're already going east. Kind of crazy to think about it from that perspective, that we've only been racing 3 rounds and we're already going east racing as the Star Yamaha rolls out behind us. Star Yamaha trailer, I should say. But yeah, next up, east. We're gonna see the 250 East guys roll out. Just as Jet has built up this championship lead, it all stops. And we start a fresh new championship next weekend in Houston. Yeah, that's it, man. Anaheim delivered tonight. Triple Crown action. Hopefully it was a good one for you guys to watch on TV. I can tell you, being here, it was a heck of a lot of fun to watch in person. So shout out to Race Tech Suspension for backing us on the Weege Show, and thanks to Jason Weigandt for being courteous enough to allow me to take you on this journey around the Angel Stadium parking lot, where pretty much everybody has gone home. But we're done and dusted in Anaheim here for 2023. But we still have 14 crazy rounds ahead of us, and if tonight was any indication, they're going to be a lot of fun. So we'll see you guys next week in Houston.